Hey guys, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and we're joined today by fellow GameXplainer and Pokemon Master Derek Binner to discuss the latest Pokemon X and Y news, specifically Mega Evolutions. So let's get this party started. Okay Derek, so a lot of Pokemon news has come out recently between the Mega Evolutions trailer, the Gamescom demo, and just various other, Pokemon related event things. I wanted to talk to you about, perhaps the biggest news of it all, which of course is Mega Evolutions, because that's kind of a game changer for Pokemon X and Y, and it seems to be a pretty big addition. So before we get into the nitty gritty, I want to know, what is your gut level reaction to this? What do you think this is going to add to the Pokemon games?
Gut level reaction? I was a little unsure at first looking at the designs, but the more I thought about it, it sounds pretty cool. My gut reaction was, oh, they've gone Super Saiyan. Because I watched Dragon Ball Z back in the day, but yeah, it just sort of reminded me that how their just hair kind of grows out and they kind of change form, but yeah, it was just a very interesting cosmetic change that does actually a good job of saying that these guys are powered up. But as far as what they'll change for the game, it's really hard to tell so far, because while there's a lot of information that's come out about Mega Evolutions, there's not a whole lot of clarity behind them. Right. We know they'll buff certain stats. We know they'll change typings, specifically Ampharos becoming a dragon type as well, and that sort of thing. And of course, new latent abilities. So it'll be curious to see how much this can turn around a battle, because you want it to be able to turn around a battle, but you don't want to be so overpowering that it just kills any kind of balance. That you just
that just dominates the battle.
Exactly. You'll throw out that Pokemon, have a Mega Evolve, I win.
Right.
That's not a good direction for them. It sounds like they're trying to limit that with only having one Mega Evolution per side per battle. So, but that's that one really powerful Pokemon that's out for blood.
Right.
So I think it'll work. I trust Game Freak enough that they won't mess it up with the balance, because they are so focused with the balance on these games. I really don't think it's going to be affected too much, but it is a concern to have. Otherwise, I like the designs. I like the Pokemon they've chosen so far for Mega Evolutions. I like them, especially when I saw that they chosen Ampharos as one of the Mega Evolutions. I sold, because that's always been one of my favorite Pokemon.
So now getting back to the balance you kind of mentioned. So I guess one concern I'd have is, so they've said that you can only have one Mega Evolution per trainer per battle. So I wonder, wouldn't that just mean, if you throw out your Mega Evolve, wouldn't the opponent automatically basically throw out their Mega Evolve? Wouldn't you think? Do you think that could
I mean, it depends. Of course, it depends on typing
right.
and movesets and all that. So, if I Mega Evolve the Mewtwo, you're not going to throw out a fighting type Pokemon.
Well, that's true.
Try to fight him like that, and so Lucario in this case, and try to fight him that way. It's still Mewtwo's going to win this fight.
Right.
So there's still a little bit of this typing still comes into play there. Basically, which Pokemon you choose to Mega Evolve, because that sort of directs the battle. But it seems like they're keeping this for a pretty late game, or mid game, I'd say.
Think so?
Well, based on, they said that the Tower of Mastery has some sort of connection to Mega Evolutions and the Mega Stones, and that new Karina, the new gym leader we were introduced to, also has a connection to Mega Evolution. So probably one of her Pokemon is going to Mega Evolve. Mm-hmm. If I had to guess, she probably, based on the whole fact that we think she's either a fighting gym leader, which I think is the more likely one, or Steel type. I think she probably has Lucario.
Oh, okay.
Because fighting and Steel, we cover both our bases.
Yeah, right. There you go.
But yeah, since she's sort of in the top left corner there, it definitely seems like something that won't come until the 4th, 5th gym leader.
Huh. That'd be kind of interesting. Is there a precedent for introducing big features like that, late into the game, such as multi-team battle, multiple trainer battles, or?
They kind of space out, but usually by the halfway point you've seen everything you can see, unless certain towns have special features or stuff like that.
Right.
For example, Gold and Silver once again. They introduced the whole concept of using what was the nut? Some sort of nut. I forget the nut. Forgive me. To make your own personal Pokeballs, and that was introduced by the second or third gym leader. So they take their time. It's like they don't throw everything at you all on one thing. And with Mega Evolutions having to come from the third evolution, you kind of need it to be in the later part of the game, since you're even if you introduce Mega Evolutions and you only have, in your case, Ivysaur, you're not going to be able to Mega Evolve Ivysaur until you finally get him to become a Venusaur.
Right.
So it makes sense that it's introduced later in the game.
Okay. That'd be interesting. Yeah, that'd be very interesting. So now, what do you think about the fact that not every Pokemon can Mega Evolve? In fact, I mean, it almost seems like it's going to be potentially a somewhat small pool of Mega Evolutions. Is that your impression too so far, or?
Well, they said they're gonna. There's a Kora magazine in Japan that always has a bunch of Pokemon news. That's where a lot of these new, the new issue will come out saying all this stuff for the Japanese audience, and then Pokemon.com will update it for the English audience 1 or 2 days afterwards. And they said for the next issue that they're going to show off some more new Mega Evolutions, and I don't think we'll see every Pokemon evolve, but I have a feeling to start out with, we're probably going to get it between 30 and 50, which is still a very small amount compared to the 600 plus that we'll have in this game.
Right. But I guess though you also have to consider though this is coming at the top of the evolution chain for a lot of those Pokemon, right? I mean, I guess every Pokemon we know of so far is evolving from its top level form, right?
Yes, you have to evolve from top level form. It's just that some Pokemon don't have an evolution, a regular evolution like Kangaskhan or Mawile. When you catch that Pokemon, that's the only form they have, so when you catch them, they're already ready for Mega Evolution. So
I wonder if, yeah, so that right there kind of like already, reduces the pool of which Pokemon can evolve. But still, it's not going to be every top level Pokemon, right, or anywhere close.
Not as far as we know. Yeah, as far as we know, I don't think that's going to happen. But I have a, this is Pokemon. More games will come out, and I'm sure they'll introduce more Mega Evolutions as we get more generations.
So do you think? So that's an interesting point. How do you think that's going to work? Because I mean, Pokemon's introduced, more not just pre-evolutions, but more evolutions as well. I mean, they built upon previous top-level evolutions, right, in the sequels.
Yes. For example, you had a Magneton, used to be the top-level evolution for Magnemite, and then with fourth gen, they introduced Magnezone, and they did that with Magmar and Electabuzz and whatnot. Right. So they introduced third-level evolutions. So maybe this is an alternative, and they'll just go on a Pokemon by Pokemon basis to see which ones they want to Mega Evolve.
That's what I kind of wonder. What does this mean for the future of the series? Would Mega Evolutions be the ultimate top level? Are they done evolving these Pokemon now? Or could they still build on it and have Mega Evolutions be even come from a midterm? I don't know if these are official Pokemon terms. I'm just making these up as I go. From a midterm evolution Pokemon.
So instead of having in this case Blaziken evolve into Mega Blaziken, have crap, I can't think of the mid-evolution, so that was a bad example.
Let's go with that, like Pikachu and Raichu. Let's say Raichu could Mega Evolve, which hasn't been confirmed yet, of course. But let's say currently Raichu could Mega Evolve. What if basically what if Pikachu were able to Mega Evolve?
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Right. So
I think that it is very much limited to final evolutions.
So I wonder if this does mean this is basically the end of the evolution chain for these Pokemon.
Well, it was always the third evolution was always the end, or final evolution was always the end of the evolution chain. There's never been a time where Pokemon's been able to evolve more than 2 times.
But in the case of Kangaskhan, right, as you just mentioned, this is only the second evolution.
Yeah, this is the only first time it's ever been able to evolve
that's what I mean,
again.
Right.
Yeah.
So that means so that would mean there's no more coming potentially for it, right?
Potentially, you never know, because nobody's
mega evolutions.
Yeah, ultra evolutions. It's possible. It's there is going back to Dragon Ball Z. You always thought that Super Saiyan was the ultimate form, and then they introduced Super Saiyan 2,
right,
and then later on Super Saiyan 3. So you never know. It's possible they could keep keep these things rolling. But as of right now, it seems like they're going to keep it to. If they get a Mega Evolution, it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to evolve previous ones. At least I don't think so. So I think it becomes a sort of a choice to them. Do we give this Pokemon a regular evolution, or do we have them Mega Evolve?
Right.
So there's a lot of play with them now.
It'd be really interesting if they had a choice at some point, I think. In fact, I mean, so far it seems like they won't be doing this. But it could be interesting if you had, if a mid-level Pokemon could only... If basically, an evolution were restricted to one of the mid-level Pokemon. So you had the choice of whether, to keep them in that form, to Mega Evolve, or to actually permanently evolve them into another form, but losing the ability to Mega Evolve.
That's an excellent point. That reminded me of other Pokemon. You have Pokemon that have split evolutions. So you have like Kirlia, which used to always evolve into Gardevoir, and then they introduced another evolution to it that it was another evolution for this Pokemon, but it changed sort of like the typing and a couple other things. So Gardevoir was more like special attack centered, and this new evolution that was introduced that could be acquired a different way called Gallade was focused on the more physical side of things. So you have like that split, or Vileplume and Blossom being final evolutions. So that they could introduce Mega Evolutions for one, but not the other.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting how they have a lot of play here,
right?
And we're not sure where they're going to go with it. But it makes for something interesting. The big question is, will these guys get their own Pokedex entry?
Right. Yeah. You mentioned that in the analysis, and I guess I mentioned it, but you wrote the script. So.
Yes. We mentioned it.
Yeah, because there's no precedent for a Pokemon that only somewhat evolves, like on a temporary basis, right?
Exactly. All we've had forms before, and usually the way those are held is you just sort of cycle through the picture. You can take a look at Pokemon in this form, and if you have the other form, you can take a look at them. Look at them in this form,
right?
But the entry itself stays the same,
right?
For this one, I'm not sure, because usually if you can find this form, they're found in the wild, and I don't think you'll be able to find Mega Evolutions in the wild. So I'm not sure how they're going to treat that.
Right.
It could. I don't know. I honestly don't. I've been trying to think how would they implement this for the Pokedex, and I honestly don't know. Maybe there'll be a completely new entry for Mega Evolutions.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how they're going to handle it. I would think. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what would offer the most, like, the biggest level of differentiating it from making it stand out as a very distinct thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that would be in this case, but I would think that would be the option they'd go with.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, there's a lot of questions with Mega Evolutions, but I think overall this is it's a positive effect. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it, though.
Okay, so we know, so far it sounds like you like Mega Evolutions from a gameplay standpoint. Now, what do you think from a more like abstract, like overall Pokemon standpoint? Like, do you think it's all kind of weird that so far, like even going off the cartoon, like because in the cartoon they made a big deal about Pokemon, about evolutions being like, oh man, once you do this, there's no going back. A picture's like, oh no, don't evolve me, Ash, no. So like, do you think this is kind of like a weird addition at all? Like, what do you think this means for Pokemon as a whole? Because this is a very strange direction for them to take with an evolution form.
Yeah, as a lot of other people commented, I made the DBZ reference. Other people are making the Digimon reference, and I have no idea if you've ever watched that in your life. But basically, evolution in Digimon has always been temporary.
Okay.
After you extend that power, you revert back to the previous form. And now Pokemon's sort of taken that route as well. But I think we've seen enough in the past that sort of denotes that I can sort of see this happening, because we have items that they've introduced the concept long ago of having Pokemon hold specific items and trading them or doing something special with them in order to evolve. Mm-hmm. We got the the stones for all the EV evolutions. We have like giving I think it's the King's Crown to Seedra, trading him to have him evolve into Kingdra, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So it doesn't strike me as odd. It doesn't strike me as out of whack with the other Pokemon stuff because this is a held item. It's it works within the frame that they've given us so far.
Right. And actually, this just occurred to me while talking to you. There actually is precedent for a temporary evolution, basically.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, Pokemon card game. Your Pokemon can be de-evolved in that one by your opponent, so this is not that far off from that.
It's been years since I played the Pokemon card game, so I barely remember that card at all. But
so one of the big factors, or maybe not one of the big factors, but something interesting that happened watching the Mega Evolution footage in both both the trailer as well as I think in our hands-on gameplay, the demo that we had. Is a DNA symbol, the same one that appears in the Japanese logo, appears above the Pokemon's head as they're mega evolving, right?
Yes.
So, what do you think that means? Do you think that could hint at a larger, DNA storyline to the game as we predicted way back in our first analysis, or?
Well, there's two ways to take this. There's, we saw that symbol long ago. This could just be that symbol above their heads could just be confirmation. It's like, okay, this is what that symbol meant. No other DNA sort of thing left behind. It's just like, we were talking about, we had Mega Evolutions planned since the very beginning, very first trailer, sort of thing. The other way to take it is that it sort of Mega Evolutions work into the whole theme of DNA for this generation,
right.
And I'd be fine with either. I mean, there's so far all we know about the evil team is it's called Team Flare, and all we know is they want to try to make money for something,
right?
And it doesn't seem to tie into DNA too well, so the Mega Evolutions fit better as of right now, but we still don't know the end goal or anything like that. I still think there's probably going to be an overall sense of DNA, and they're making such a big deal of Mega Evolutions that this could be like the focal point for this gen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, unfortunately there's not a whole lot I can predict here.
It's interesting. I wonder if the fact that this is an item that you have to equip might support that idea, because it could be like a man-made item basically. Mm-hmm. That is enabling these the DNA to be manipulated in the Pokemon, I guess, in order to create these Mega Evolutions.
It could be. I mean, they're called stones. They're Mega Stones, and they each have their own. Yeah. So I don't think that's man-made.
Don't think so.
I don't think. It may be forced upon by man. Like they just happened to be digging and they found it, and they saw it react.
It is kind of interesting that the whole thing, that the first Mega Evolution they showed off, without us knowing it at the time, was Mewtwo. Mm. And that was in the original Pokemon games, where there was also, a heavy DNA focus, with Mewtwo.
Yes.
So, yeah, I wonder that, might support the idea that they are definitely going to bring that whole theme back, potentially.
I really think, I think they are. If I had to go with a gut feeling, I think the DNA portion of this will play into the rest of the game. When they have a whole location focused on Mega Evolutions and DNA and stuff like that, and then we have that whole science center in the desert that looks like it could be some sort of laboratory.
Right.
I think we have a theme here.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. All right, so kind of tied into the whole improving your Pokemon, evolving your Pokemon thing, is this whole new thing they're adding to the game with Super Training and Core Training, right? This is all brand new. So, again, I'm a layman to Pokemon now. It's been a long time since I've played it. But, it's to my understanding, as you were telling me too, which I'd heard about before, is in the previous Pokemon games, there were, basically hidden stats that you didn't have access to. You had no idea what they were.
You could figure it out based on a couple of different factors.
Like doing, tests, basically?
Yeah, somehow these Pokemon fanatics just found out the code for it, really. And the game lists these stats as base stats. Fans sort of call them effort values or EVs.
Right.
And there's basically every Pokemon you catch is slightly different based on its I forget the term for it, but basically emotion. So it could be its nature. It could have a serious nature, or a happy nature, or a friendly nature. And each one of these natures causes their stats to either, like certain stats to be really good, or to be a little bit better than normal, and other stats to be a little bit worse than normal. So what competitive trainers would do was find the Pokemon typing that they wanted for that Pokemon, and figure out like exactly how they wanted to basically train this Pokemon, and train it in that specific way. And it got even more complicated when you add in the fact that there is different you got slightly different values for these stats based on which Pokemon you fought.
Mm-hmm.
So you fought faster Pokemon, your Pokemon becomes slightly faster. You fought defensive Pokemon, so forth. It was a really, really complicated system that I personally just never bothered with, because I never got really into competitive battling.
Right.
I was always sort of on my own, so I was just sort of like, I play the main game, and you don't need these stats to beat the main game. However, because of the huge online focus, I can see why they've introduced super training and core training, which basically provides a much easier way for people who don't have a degree in physics and calculus to try to figure these things out. So you can you can sort of customize how your Pokemon's going to train thanks to super training, I think, because you'll have different mini games, and I'm assuming each mini game will focus on a different stat.
Right. And
they'll get these training bags, which you can then use to power up that specific stat. And then with core training, I think you can set this. I believe, and there's no confirmation of this, but basically the way I'm reading into it is, for the core stat, you have the Pokemon focus on whichever area that they're good at, and then that's how you see their sort of like the status bar that we see there that shows how good they are in each statistic expands. And
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a bit of control there. So basically, if somebody really wants to, they can use the super training rather than constant battling with specific Pokemon to make this whole process a hell of a lot easier. I mean, if you want to have your mind blown, just go to the Bulbapedia, look up EV training, and look at the mathematical formulas that are there. It is ridiculous.
Yeah, I have no doubt.
But yeah, so this whole introduction of super training, I think, is an excellent idea. I fully welcome it. It'll make competitive battling a lot more interesting for people who aren't quite into that whole necessity of trying to find specific Pokemon. Of course, it'll still be there because you want to find a Pokemon of the nature that you want. But once you got that Pokemon, you don't have to worry about hunting down the specific ones that you need to fight.
Right.
So
yeah, so what are your impressions of? I mean, what do you think of this edition? Do you think this is a good thing for them to do, or?
I do. There's always been that sort of barrier for people who want to sort of get into battling, but then you have to learn this stuff if you're going to compete, because the people who are competing and doing well do this stuff.
Right.
They do that, and now they introduce super training and core training. Yeah, that works perfect for people who aren't quite into it. Now, the only barrier that I can sort of see with this is the mini games. Mm-hmm. Depends on how repetitive they are, because they're mini games. You're going to get bored with them eventually, I'm afraid. So it'll be interesting to see how they balance that out.
Yeah, I'm always a little bit trepidatious when whenever a game has such like a solid core, but then like adds these kind of gimmicky things, around that core gameplay, but are still kind of crucial. Mm-hmm. Like, as another only example I can think off the top of my head would be, this is a completely random example, which isn't tied to all the Pokemon, but like, Sega Soccer Slam, Mario Strikers. Mm-hmm. I love the GameCube one. Then on the Wii, it was still a fun game, but they added this stupid mode where whenever you do like the most powered up shot, it enters into this mini game where you use a pointer to block the balls, and it had nothing at all in common with the actual gameplay for the rest of the game. It just felt completely unbalanced, and like really just kind of took away from the solid core they had.
Yeah, and if you were really good at it, you could block every one of those shots, no matter how good you had it built up. I remember that. I remember being really disappointed with that feature. I don't think that's going to apply here, where it throws off everything. I think super training is a way to quickly do it. I think you can still do all this sort of EV-based stat training with just core training, but the super training's there for people who want to sort of hurry this along.
Right.
That's my gut feeling. There's no confirmation about that whatsoever, but based on what they've shown us, that's how I think this will work. So you got something in there for the people who really want to get their Pokemon up in stats to work out really well, and then you got the people who is like, oh, we'll have them go this way, and I'll just enjoy the game, you know?
Right.
Either way, it'll be like I said, it'll be interesting to see what kind of mini games they come out with, and
I hope there's a Pokemon Snap mini game, even though it wouldn't work at all and doesn't really make any sense. But
no, I mean we got the camera so far.
That's
so,
true.
Nintndo's been getting really into selfies between Pokemon and Wind Waker.
So I think there's one final thing we wanted to talk about today, and this should be a pretty brief section because there's not much to talk about. But we finally learned how the controls are going to work. And this is kind of weird. I think I'll let you describe it because you better understand it than I do. Okay, so go ahead. Yeah.
From what I can understand, and I read this from Destructoid, I have not been able to confirm this anywhere.
So I'll confirm when I go play. I mean, I'm sure someone has already online somewhere, but I'll confirm when I go play the demo at PAX next week or this week.
From what I could tell at the Gamescom demo, they automatically had the roller skates equipped. Okay. So I couldn't quite confirm this, so I don't know if you have to work on trying to get those off, but somehow writer at Destructoid, who did their Pokemon preview of the Gamescom demo, noted how you could walk in 8 directions as long as you have the rollerblades off. If you take the rollerblades off and you can only move in the core 4 directions in the grid-based way, like all the previous Pokemons. The weirder thing is, you can only control it with the regular D-pad on the 3DS. You can't control your character with the thumb pad. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, circle pad.
The circle pad, thank you. You can't control them with the circle pad unless you have the roller skates equipped, which immediately gives a reason to have the rollerblades.
Right.
And I don't think they're wrong about this, because if we look back at some of the previous trailers, specifically the one where we were trying to figure out how the camera might work, you had the one of the male trainer coming towards the camera and then taking a sharp left. Like, it was that sort of immediate left that you see when you have grid-based movement. And I think that he was not wearing skates at the time, so I think that's confirmation that as long as you're not wearing skates, you're doing grid-based movement. Once you wear skates, you can grind and have 8-directional movement.
But don't you think it'd be awkward, assuming we're right, that to switch from the circle pad to the D-pad and back again if you want?
It could be awkward, but I hope this is the way they implement it, is that you choose which way you want to do it. If you're that big of a fan of their traditional movement in Pokemon, don't wear the skates unless you have to for Karina's gym, and just walk the way you normally would, because we also found out that you run automatically in this game. It's not, you have to push the B button in order to walk.
Right.
Sort of swapping it out for how the running shoes usually work. But I think it's just a way of another example of player choice, where players who want to use the grid-based movement can do it by wearing the sneakers. People who want to do 8-directional movement put on the skates and jet around, because we haven't seen any limitations for where you can wear the skates. We've seen them in buildings, unlike bikes. We've seen them go through paths. You know, there's no limits there.
Well, yeah, I'll probably just use skates all the time. Like, what?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will. I can't imagine myself using the grid-based movement.
Yeah, I can't either. It seems like a natural place for Pokemon to go, especially now that they have the 3D visuals. Like, this is the time to make that change. So, all right. Well, I think that pretty much covers it for Pokemon X and Y. Was there any final thoughts you had, Derek? You wanted to give any final impressions of everything we've seen so far? Like, are you super stoked for this game now? Like, can you not contain it anymore?
I've been super stoked for this game. I'm really looking forward to when Nintendo finally sends us our review copies, because I want to get my hands on this. I want to start getting stuff out there right away. And I will say, guys, as soon as I get that review copy, the analysis videos will probably stop, because, you know, I'll know everything.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's how we've done it before, is, yeah, once we get the review copies in, there's no point to doing analysis.
I will say I'm extremely jealous of you getting to go to PAX Prime in a couple days and getting to try out the demo yourself, because I want to get my hands on that thing, and of course I can't.
Yep. Well,
they need to release it to the eShop.
Well, don't worry, I'll take a selfie of me playing it, and then I'll tweet it right your way. So.
Yeah, thank you. Now the question is, are you becoming more interested in this game? Because as we established over and over again, you've been away from the game for quite a while.
Right.
Anymore? Nope.
Nope, not really. I mean, to be fair, I don't know if there's anything they could really do that would make me interested without like completely changing the game. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still interested on a base level. You know, I love the original Pokemon, but you know, I just completely burned out on it as the games went on, and
yeah.
I kind of feel like the way I do with it and Animal Crossing, like I enjoy the new Animal Crossing, but I never reached the same level of initial enjoyment I had with the original. And I feel like that'll be the way with Pokemon. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I feel like I'll probably end up playing it. You know, I'm not sure how this will work with the coverage, but I'll probably help out in some ways doing coverage for it. And so, you know, if that happens, I'm sure I'll enjoy it. I just can't see myself like getting into it again. But, you know, I can't say for sure. I haven't actually played the game at all yet. I'm only going off of what my experience has been with past Pokemon games. So,
yeah.
We'll see. Maybe I'll fall in love with it again. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll find out in a few days.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. All right, guys. Well, thanks Derek for joining us on our Pokemon discussion.
Not a problem.
And thanks everyone for watching this discussion. You know, if you enjoyed our stuff, make sure to subscribe to GameXplain or follow us on Facebook and Twitter, both at GameXplain. There are links in the description below. We cover all kinds of stuff here, like Pokemon, more Pokemon, sometimes Sonic, more Pokemon.
A little bit of Mario and Luigi.
Yeah, we fit that in every now and then, some Mario and Luigi. Alright guys, well, yeah, thanks for watching, and keep an eye on GameXplain.com. We'll have even more impressions of the Pokemon demo coming up very soon, as well as footage of it, even though we already have footage of it. But we'll have even more Pokemon stuff as we lead up to the Pokemon, you know, X and Y review. So, thanks again for watching, and bye.